Just hit unmute, bro.
What is Christianity?
It's the religion that Jesus of Nazareth established as the fulfillment of the Hebrew prophecies of the coming Messiah, and the practice of that religion, we believe, is the Orthodox Church. So Christianity for us is identical to the Orthodox Church, and we believe that we are faithfully preserving the teaching of Jesus Christ.
And what about the 45,000 denominations of Christianity?
Well, that's why the Orthodox, right?
Would you say that they're Christian as well?
Well, the term Christian might be used for all kinds of different groups, but just because they use the term, no, it doesn't grant you the status of being that. That's why it's called the Orthodox Church, because we believe that it is the church that Christ established, the only one.
Do you think that argument would hold if someone were to use that against you when you were saying that, well, Jesus was referred to as God and he was referred to all these various things, but couldn't we also say, well, just because one is referred to by something, that does not make them that thing?
Yeah, but it's not just a nominal reference. It's an actual historical lineage. And so the church of the first thousand.
Hello, V.
What up?
What would you like to say?
I would say the claim that Christianity is proven objectively is a false claim.
Okay. Well, I think we can prove it with a transcendental proof. Do you reject transcendental proof?
Yeah, I would say that transcendental doesn't really stand, as in we can get logic and morals outside of an objective standard. We can get it from society and from the law written by man.
No, we can't, because we wouldn't be able to interpret reality without a human bias. So all knowledge would reduce to like relativism and global skepticism.
So what's wrong with that? Like, why can't we just go around going by what we want to do, our own human biases? What's wrong with that?
Because then truth is just like whatever humans decide is true. So it's not like really true, right?
No, it's true to me.
No, that reduces to global skepticism, which means we wouldn't be able to know anything.
But I know that's true to me, I think. Like, that's what I think.
That's just like a nonsense thing to say. It's true to me.
Well, it's subjectively true to me. But I could also say it's objectively true to me.
It's not like a thing.
Yeah, it is. Because I believe it to be true.
Yeah, but truth isn't like, if you just think, if you like have a fantasy in your head, that's not truth.
How do you know it's a fantasy and it's not the full reality that we live in?
Because you don't have access to reality.
But I'm in reality.
But you only have access to perceptions of the world. You don't have access to reality. You have phenomena. You don't have reality. So we need God to connect to reality. Without God, no reality.
But wouldn't you say that us already being reality can be dependent of God or independent of God?
No, we can't. We have no access to reality because our culture creates a bias. So all truth would have a bias unless we have God to get unbiased truth from.
There's no unbiased truth be that we can't just get from society.
Culture creates a filter, right? So whatever culture you're in will create a filter on how you interpret evidence. So there's no way to have like objective evidence for anything due to this filter. We need God. God doesn't have a filter. God has direct access to the truth because he creates the truth. And then he can reveal knowledge to us that isn't filtered by human bias.
Okay. All right.
Without that, we don't
gonna
have
take
it.
off the math. I'm a Christian. I was just trying to see how you would argue it. I'm a Christian. I believe what you believe, bro.
Okay.
I was just seeing what you believed. But yeah, I agree.
All right,
Without
man.
God, there is no standard.
Okay, thanks for calling, man.
Yeah, and Martin's tripping. God's not a delusion. You got. Then that means you got. I guess that everything that we believe to be true is false because it can be changed by someone else's opinion in 5 seconds. But whatever, Martin. And God does speak to us through His Word. All right, having a good night, dude.
All
So,
right, peace. Yeah, God communicates to us in a number of ways. Let's play this clip.
Years is the Orthodox Church. You can verify that by reading the Church Fathers all the way back
I'm not Orthodox, by the way. This is Jay Dyer.
to the first, second, and third century. And so that's the proof that the Orthodox Church is the true church, not just the name alone.
Was there not various sects of Christianity during the first and fourth century?
Sure, there've always
CE?
been sects. Sure.
Sex.
And so for you think that the Orthodox view it became it's not even the predominant view, is it? Catholicism is the most widely held.
What do you mean there's no proof? That's crazy, Martin. We have a transcendental proof. So the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy has an entry on transcendental arguments. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, transcendental arguments are valid arguments. Do you disagree with the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Martin? Yeah, okay, whatever. What a goofball.
I mean, we're the Orthodox Catholic Church, so we are the Catholic Church.
But you're not Catholic, though.
Catholic?
Yes, we are. We're the Orthodox
balls.
Catholic Church.
Okay, so you are okay. So Catholics are Orthodox as well, then?
No, they're papists.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh wow.
So what happened with the Orthodoxy and the Catholic views then during the schism? So how is it that there was a schism and then some kind of divide, but now you're unified?
So we're not unified with the Roman Catholic Church. That's the Franco-Papal Church, but we are still unified as the Orthodox Church, which is the modus operandi of how the church functions in the first 1,000 years, in a synodal, communal sense.
Okay, yeah, I'm not well versed in Christian theology or the history of the Christian church.
That's fine.
Also, you don't really believe that we know things with our heart, do you?
Yeah, of course I do. Why?
Well, could you walk me through like that process, like how we come to know things with our hearts?
Right. So the heart is not a organ that is separated from the mind. Okay, the mind and the heart function together. It's just that man's heart is supposed to be integral to his knowing faculty. And so in the Orthodox view, when we repent, when we return to God, that's how we are then able to truly rationalize and see things in the correct way. So they're two different functions, you could say. They relate to one another and they're distinct, but they're supposed to work in harmony. And what fallen man does is that he tries to not listen to his heart. He tries to not return to God. He wants to have knowledge of the world in an autonomous way, distinct from and separate from knowing God. In the Orthodox view, repenting and knowing God then allows you to see and interpret the created world in the right way. So,
Cry me a river. What do you mean we fail to provide proof? I provide proof for God all the time. What? Cry me a river. Why don't you join? I'll prove God to you right into your face.
so it's not totally separate from the mind or from rationality, but it's rather it's inverted. So it should be like this when it's like this.
So God is an interpretive lens, and anyone who
God is much more than that, but we do believe that our worldview gives us the proper interpretive lens.
Hell yeah.
So anyone, anyone who holds a different worldview, they couldn't have a proper interpretation.
Martin, I'm making a transcendental proof. It's not factual. Okay. But the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy has an entry on transcendental proofs. So do you guys disagree with the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy then? Fucking genius in the chat. You know more than the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy? Yeah, you guys are goofballs. I'll just stay in the chat. You guys are probably too low tier to even have a conversation about these things.
Of the world.
Well, they might get some things right,
Or
but
circle
they won't be
talk.
able to give an overall narrative explanation or justification. So it doesn't mean that people in other religions can't know things or can't say true things. It just means that in the big picture, ultimately speaking, they're not going to be able to give a really clear, coherent, justified account of the knowledge that they have.
I'm not trying to sound smart, dude. I have below 100 IQ. You don't have to be. Forrest Gump could prove God exists, okay, dude? You might not know who Forrest Gump is, okay? A really unintelligent, dumb person could prove God exists because atheism is so untenable, vacuous, and superficial that atheism immediately falls apart upon close examination. You don't have to be intelligent at all to debunk atheism and prove Christianity. What's eating Gilbert Grape could prove Christianity. Prove it? Yeah, it's if facts, then God. We have facts, therefore God. Any fact will require God because God is ultimate. Without God, there would be no ultimate context to any fact. There you go. And you could only know what's ultimate if the ultimate revealed itself to you. So if you deny God, then you have ultimate mystery. And in a world of ultimate mystery, there's no facts. There you go. I'm not really using big words.
And you suppose that Christianity does just that?
Orthodox.
The ultimate is the thing that explains everything, right? So God's ultimate. He's the ground of being. He explains everything in existence. Without God, you won't be able to explain everything.
Christianity
You have no ultimate.
is Christianity. So that's the only one. Yeah,
yes.
in my view, that's the only one that can do that. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. But we do agree though that people can make true statements about the world and not be a Christian.
Sure, absolutely.
What am I doing to try to sound smart? I said I'm below 100 IQ. I'm below average intelligence, okay? I'm just saying you don't have to be smart to debate atheism because atheism is so empty. There's nothing to it. It's a house of cards. An atheist can't debate atheism. It's a joke. They're like flat earthers. Like you don't have to be a genius to debate a flat earther, right? I don't know what atheism is. I don't care. It doesn't matter what it is. You can define it however you want. It's irrelevant. No, Martin, we can objectively prove Christianity. As Christians, we're evidence-based. We believe in evidence. We're not like atheists who just believe what they want to be true.
And they can derive truths from the world without being a Christian.
I think it's a great place. I love my...
Sure.
Yeah, but atheism is this idea that there's a model of reality where there's no ultimate. But that's goofy. That doesn't make sense. There's no model. The atheist model of reality just instantly implodes. It can't be true. Go baby.
So then what is it that one is lacking?
Well,
might
there's
not be
different types of
Christian.
knowledge, right? So, I mean, I might know about all kinds of things that aren't profitable. So, I mean, there's knowledge, bare knowledge, there's knowledge of the created order, there's scientific knowledge, there's knowledge that's profitable, like virtues versus vices. I mean, there's all kinds of different kinds of knowledge. And then there's knowledge in a more intimate sense of knowing God directly in a personal way. So, for example, if I read a book about Elvis, right? I mean, I don't know Elvis, right? But in a sense, I know about him. But that's different than if I was hanging with Big E, right, on his Lisa Marie jet plane. So in the same way, I mean, there's different types of knowledge. There's different levels or degrees, I guess you could say, of knowledge or intimate knowledge. And so, yeah, I mean, people can know all kinds of things outside of the Christian worldview, but that's a different question from can they give a coherent, justified account of that knowledge?
Right. So if we ask a atheist to justify their account of how they can have knowledge, they won't be able to do that. And because atheism would be like a knowledge, they would be making knowledge claims like anytime they talk. And since their worldview couldn't account for knowledge, knowledge would be impossible given the assumptions of atheism. Atheism is going to be a contradiction. It's called a performative contradiction. So, like, the atheist is constantly contradicting themselves.
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, you yourself just admitted that there are various interpretations of epistemology.
Well, that doesn't mean that. Hold on,
I agree that
Whoa,
there
whoa,
are
whoa, whoa, whoa.
various kinds of
No,
knowledge.
the fact that there's different types of knowledge does not mean that there's.
Yeah, Joyful Apostate, I'm giving a transcendental proof. So, Joyful, do you reject transcendental proof? Because the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy has an entry on transcendental arguments. And the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy says that transcendental arguments are valid. So, do you know something, Joyful Apostate, that maybe you should tell the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy that they got wrong? So apparently you know more than the educators at Stanford, apparently. These atheists are so smart, guys. They figured out there's no God, and they figured out that Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is wrong. See? Atheists are geniuses. They know everything. Because in atheism, you just presuppose something and then it's true, right? I presuppose there's no evidence for God, therefore there's no evidence for God. I presuppose atheism, therefore atheism. They just presuppose everything. They never provide. Have you ever seen an atheist provide evidence? I've never seen it. Yeah, Joyful Apostate. So yeah, you disagree with the Stanford Encyclopedia because you're a clown, I guess? Okay, well, clown people. There we go. And he says, I'm yapping. But you're the one telling me that I should ignore the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy because somehow you've got the magic truth in your brain or something. I don't know. What a fantasy. These people are like characters in Harry Potter. They're complete fantasy people. It's like, when are you going to live in the real world, dude? Grow up. Forgive your parents, man. Like you got mommy and daddy issues or something. But anyways,
different justifications, those two different things. So I'm saying that you might be able to know those things, but that doesn't mean you can give a justification of that knowledge. So, for example, atheists, let's say an atheist scientist publishes a paper on earthworms, and it's a breakthrough in the science of earthworms. And let's say, for the sake of argument, it's all true. Okay, does he know that? Sure, yeah. Can he give a justified account in an epistemology sense of the knowledge that he has? No. Two different things.
Why couldn't he?
Well, because in my case example, it was an atheist scientist, and so atheists are not going to be able to give an account for knowledge in their worldview because atheism precludes the possibility of a rational, coherent justification for all kinds of things like abstract objects, identity over time, principle of induction, all of these things.
You hear that, guys? What is the rational account on an atheist worldview for identity over time, induction? What is the other one you mentioned? Abstract objects. Hey, atheist, can you tell us, like, how do you rationally account for abstract objects, identity over time, or induction, all of which are necessary for knowledge? How do you guys account for those things? Huh, atheists? The silence is deafening. But you can't prove anything. But you have no evidence. Well, yeah, there's no evidence because your worldview makes it impossible to have evidence for anything because you're a goofy atheist.
So are you saying that those things cannot happen naturally? That God is necessary?
To say that they're merely naturalistic phenomena is not to give a justification.
But
that's just telling a story. That's just stating what it is.
Is giving it justification?
No, it's not. Is what?
But so you're saying that just saying that these are natural phenomena is not enough to justify the natural phenomena. Right. So we must. So then.
Well, it's not enough to justify the worldview.
That the physical cannot justify the physical. You're saying that the metaphysical is necessary to justify the physical.
Stating what something is in your worldview does not count as a justification for the utilization of those principles in epistemology. And that's the case for anybody.
So we can't ground our knowledge in nature. I mean, it sounds like.
It begs the question: what is nature?
That would be like a huge. That'd be taking a huge shot at like cognitive scientists and psychologists and neuroscientists. You know.
Well, I'm happy to take a shot at that because cognitive scientists typically don't know anything about epistemology.
Yes, I agree with you there, unless they come from a philosophy background. But I do disagree, though. I mean, it does seem to me.
So give an account for the priest.
Okay, yeah. So to give you an account of knowledge, how it could happen naturally is just through.
Why do you want to read out of the Stanford Dictionary?
The process of.
Are you going to read me the definition of atheism?
Evolution by natural selection. I mean.
Okay, that's telling a story is not giving a justification. So this is so what atheists always do is they think telling a story.
Are you talking about the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy? I don't know why you said Stanford Dictionary. It says tag is an argument out of ignorance. It's an anti-skeptical argument. I don't know what you mean. Argument out of ignorance? I'm looking at the article itself. I'm doing a search on the word ignorance. What does it say specifically so I can search it? The whole article? That's going to take forever. Look, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. Transcendental arguments are valid arguments. You can't cook me, dude. Dude, if you're just learning about this stuff now, you think you're going to cook me? I've been studying this argument for like over a year. And I've read like books on it and papers on it. I'm running from my own client. Oh my God. What is he saying? Why would it be an argument from ignorance is a fallacy? How could it be an argument for ignorance? What are you talking about? It's an anti-skeptical argument. Okay, you can take that as a win. That's what you want.
Free is a justification. So in epistemology, justification is a specific type of requirement that's being asked for. Telling a story is not equivalent to a justification. Plus, it begs the question for what's
Veritas, there is only evidence for Christianity because Christianity is necessary for evidence. Therefore, all evidence would prove Christianity implicitly, indirectly. You couldn't have evidence in the world without the Christian God. Evidence would be impossible. So when anyone tries to like prove something or use evidence, they're acting as if Christianity is true. God is the standard for truth. Think about this, right? God is the truth. So if you deny God, you're denying the truth. So what's going to be the truth? It's either going to be that the mind of God explains facts, or the mind of man explains facts. And if you say the mind of man explains facts, then facts become arbitrary because it's just going to be what some human decided is true or not true. Well, when we say the mind of God explains facts, we avoid that issue and we can have objective truth because God can know reality apart from a human filter or bias. See, when you grow up, sociology will prove this, right? Your culture creates a bias or a filter for how we view the world. Even like our language informs how we think about things. It creates sort of like bumpers or like it boxes us in that without certain words in our language that prevents us from having certain thoughts. Okay. And so we could never really like trust our thinking or our senses, or like we're too limited as humans because we have all these biases and filters that inform how we interpret the world. So what we need for objective truth is the mind of God to evaluate and interpret reality independently of human bias, and then reveal that knowledge to us. So we have unfiltered knowledge from God that can provide a foundation to make sense of anything in the world. If you deny that unfiltered knowledge from God, all we have is filtered knowledge that is tainted by human bias. And if all your knowledge is biased, then it's arbitrary. It reduces to relativism, and relativism reduces to global skepticism. So denying God is denying truth, and there's no way around that. Welcome, Kumori.
Yes. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
In what instance should we put pseudoscience on a pedestal in this way?
Well, I'm arguing we should stop putting pseudoscience on a pedestal because it's gotten way out of hand. Look at the state of science now. It's disgusting.
Yeah, because of people like you.
People like me.
Yes.
What do I do? I'm not a scientist.
You're at this point you're a pseudoscientist. You're talking about Sky Daddy,
I hate
and you're
science.
like, oh, the only way to find out the truth is through God, and there's truth in God. But last time I checked, and the only way to prove something is true is by having some type of evidence behind it. I want some
Yeah.
evidence that God is real. I do. Do you have that?
Yes, the evidence for God is a transcendental proof. It's like a philosophical evidence. It's sort of like
Philosophical, right?
like you would prove. See, these atheists are not very mature people. They're very
Philosophical. Okay, go ahead.
they're very clownish people, right? So the proof for God is going to be more like a mathematical proof than like an empirical scientific proof, right?
So it's mathematical proof. Okay, go ahead, elaborate.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, you don't need like empirical fucking data for everything, right?
Yeah. So like for
Yeah,
science,
yeah, you don't need empirical. Okay, okay, go ahead.
well, yeah, because there's no empirical data for 1 + 1 = 2, right?
I mean, in that case, it'd be mathematical, but I really am curious to see how you'd break down, or even much just feed to me, how God is. You could have some mathematical proof as to how God exists.
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't say I
curious.
have a
No, I might
mathematical
become
proof.
like I'm willing to concede. I might become a believer after this. Seriously.
I didn't say I have. I said proving God is more like how we would prove math. I would prove God as a first principle belief, foundational belief. So I'd use a transcendental argument to prove God, where I'd say something like, um,
Oh.
God, the Christian God is necessary for facts. We have facts, therefore the Christian God exists. That would be the
That
proof.
was the most circular shit that I've ever heard in my life. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, stop, stop. Because I do need to be, I don't want to be bad faith. I really don't. But you
Okay.
said, please repeat what you just said. How is that not circular?
It's a modus ponens. If P, then Q, P, therefore Q. It's not circular because the conclusion is not in the premise. So
No,
if
no, that's not
facts,
enough.
then God, we have facts,
No,
therefore
dude.
God.
Oh my god. This is ridiculous. No,
Is it?
seriously, I'm so, somebody said ridiculous.
Is it?
Oh my god. No, okay. Directly, like, just directly prove to me in a mathematical equation how God is real, please.
I gave you a transcendental proof, and then you laughed at me because you're kind of like you're like a clown or something. Did you evolve from a clown? Are your parents clowns too?
Dude, Christians are
You
funny.
got
Like,
you got clown
okay,
genetics.
after I asked you to give me the mathematical proof as to how God exists, you fed me with a circular, it sounded like circular reasoning.
Oh yeah.
You
What?
said,
How
can
is it
you please tell,
circular?
quickly, can you just repeat what your response was?
If facts, then God. We have facts, therefore God. So your
That's
parents
it's just
clowns.
it's not direct, dude. Like I said before, dude, like how can I get any evidence that God is real? This can be anecdotal. Well, I don't even want it to be anecdotal.
God is necessary. Like, how did you determine you can have
God
evidence?
is necessary. How is God necessary for truth?
Because evidence requires like identity over time. So without God, there's no identity over time. And if there's no identity over time, there's no evidence for anything. So how would you account for identity over
How does
time?
God have why is God a variable in this? Like I hear
Because
no correlation at all whatsoever.
we're comparing models of reality. I have a model of reality that says God created the world. You're trying to
Dude,
put forth a model
there's
of
so much,
reality.
dude, that's so bland. There's so much nuance in that. I can't even dissect it even if I wanted to. Like at least math
I'm
equations
trying to
can make
dumb it down
sense.
for
You're
you.
making no sense at all whatsoever. No, I
I'm
asked
trying to
you
dumb it down for you.
how does God correlate to whatever the fuck you just told me? It sounds like a word salad.
Oh,
How
I'm
does
trying to dumb. It's like a
why
dumb salad.
how exactly does the truth of life relate back to God? Please. Quickly.
Yeah. Do you know what a identity is?
Yes, I know what an identity is, dude.
Okay. So like when you look at an apple, the apple doesn't just poof change into something else, right? It
Of
stays as
course.
an apple. Yeah. So what limits the apple's like states of existence so it doesn't change into something else, like an orange or something? It's God.
God. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the irony. Oh my god. I might have just became a believer, dude. What? So you're telling me the reason as to why apples do not change its form over time is because of this existential fucking
Existential.
no,
What do you think what do you think
this
existential means?
existential
What do you think existential
fucking hold
means?
on, wait, let me finish, dude.
Okay, well, can you use
Fucking
words correctly? Because
omnipresent
existential
being
doesn't
because
fit.
of this omnipresent
Okay.
omnipotent being the fucking apples do not change form. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep. So what in your
Like, are
godless
you one of those like woke people that think we're like in some type of like virtual reality?
No, I believe we're in the real world because I'm a Christian. Like, I don't understand. How do you prove that you're not in the
In a
virtual?
real world, men cannot touch someone's fucking kneecap and heal their injury in a second. But that's
Okay.
what it states in the Bible, correct?
Well, I don't understand if God can create the universe, why would healing someone all of a sudden like?
But isn't that outside of the like the law of nature, right? Isn't that outside of just
Yeah, but who dictates the law of nature? Who gave us the law of
I mean,
nature?
your God does, right? But you just said
Yeah.
that. I mean, if he could make a guy like, touch people's kneecaps and just heal it in less than 20 seconds, I'm pretty sure that, we'd see some
Thanks,
type of
Miranda.
like in current day society, modern day society, we'd see some type of supernatural activities going on around us. Some surreal shit going on around us, right?
Yeah, remember when the angel saved President Trump, King Trump, from the horrible assassin?
I'm sorry, repeat yourself.
Remember when recently God saved King Trump from the horrible evil assassin man?
You don't think that was staged?
That was an angel.
Guys, okay, guys, like, if someone has like a near death experience, like it was an angel. It was an angel. I can't do this shit. Like I'm way too grounded. You're
He
literally
turned
making
his
me like
head at a
I
split
feel like I'm
second.
losing brain cells. I
He
feel
turned.
like
He would have
I,
got hit. He would have got headshot, but he turned his head at a split second. Like it's fractions of a
it's almost
second.
as if yeah,
It's clearly
he turned
God's
his head at the
intervention.
perfect second.
It's
The
clear if
perfect
that's not
second.
God's intervention, then I don't know what is God's intervention. My
Oh my
Lord,
God, you're so
you're just
gullible,
denying
dude.
the obvious.
I'm denying the obvious. Like my
Yes.
obvious, let me tell you, dude, that was staged.
Okay.
It literally, like someone said, it grazed his ear. He so happened, and even still, right? Even still, let me just break this down to you. Let me ground you to reality really quickly. After he had been, they couldn't even locate the quote unquote assassin. They couldn't fucking locate them, and he still decided to get up, put his fist up in the air with fake blood running down his fucking ear.
What
Like
a
this is so.
badass.
But no, people like you
What
are
a
so
badass, right?
gullible, and you think that angels are real. You think, if anything, do you think that Santa Claus is real?
When he pumped his fist in the crowd, I said, "That's my president, right there." What a badass.
Yeah,
What a
you're a
badass.
troll.
There's no fear in
You're a
that
fucking
man. No
troll. You're a
fear.
troll. You're a troll.
I'm a troll.
You're not serious. So you don't think that he staged it, like, at all?
Why would someone stage like a bullet going like less than an inch? Like it literally
You
it
really think
grazed his
that didn't even
ear.
sound like a fucking bullet?
Why would someone put them so close to like being unalived? That doesn't
It
not a
wasn't a
very
bullet.
reasonable
It
person,
was a
Kumara.
sound
He-
effect from a little computer, and then
Look,
somehow no one in the fucking crowd got hurt. Like, it's just, come on, dude. Like, wake the fuck up. Like,
well,
God, like, sometimes I feel like just me being agnostic just automatically gives me the benefit of the doubt, wisdom, and intellectually, or even just rationally, right? I
but
feel like I'm so
Kumari,
much more rational than majority of people because you choose to believe in a sky daddy with little angels that save little Trump daddy, Trump daddy, Trump daddy from fucking fake bullets. Like
but
I just can't.
Kumara, how could a random accident produce something as beautiful as you? Clearly, you and
You're a
your
fucking
beauty
troll. Like
is
you're
the
literally a
result of a
troll.
divine mind.
You're a fucking troll,
You're a
dude.
beautiful woman. How can you
You're
deny
a
that?
troll,
And
dude.
you
You're
think
a
an
troll.
accident created such beauty? That doesn't make sense, Kumara. Kumori.
Stop calling me fucking Kimura.
I'm sorry. Well, thank you for coming. Um, I don't know. I tried my best to prove God to you.
You didn't prove God to me. You just gave me circular reasoning, and then you started to talk about Trump Daddy. Like, I honestly just, I don't even know. Like, I feel like I lost brain cells. I need to read a book or meditate or some shit. Have fun, motherfucker.
Okay. I wish you well. See, lucky for her, she's very beautiful, so she won't need to rely on her brain to get through life. So she'll be fine. Welcome, Scotty.
Hey, how's it going, man?
It's going well. How are you?
Good, good. Earlier I was trying to join to give you a definition of atheism.
The definition of atheism, I don't really care how people define it.
Oh, well, that would probably be helpful for you to debate atheists then, I would think.
Well, they can define it however they want. They're going to get destroyed. It doesn't matter how they define it.
Well, I mean, the view, it's a position. Atheism is a position, and we're non-convinced that there is a God
Right.
because of the lack of evidence.
And I'm
So
not convinced that you actually believe that. I would have to see you like kick a puppy for me to be convinced that you're an atheist.
why would I need to kick a puppy?
Well, since there's no evidence for atheism, the only way I could actually believe
Well, again, we
it's an
don't need the
atheist
evidence.
is if they like kicked a puppy. Because think about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you believe, like Christians aren't going to kick puppies because we believe in God. No one who believes in God is going to go kick a puppy. That's crazy, right? So like, but if you're an atheist, it doesn't kicking puppies like you're not going to go to hell. You can kick a million puppies and there's no hell, right? So an atheist
Yeah.
would have no problem kicking a puppy. So if you want to convince me that you're an atheist, I'm going to have to see you kick a puppy. Otherwise, I'm just going to believe that you're a Christian.
Well, I was baptized Catholic, but over time I've learned that I didn't have a good reason to believe. So that's the whole thing. It's not that I'm saying there is no God. I'm saying that I'm not
Okay.
convinced there is one.
And I'm saying I'm not convinced that you're not convinced because I haven't seen you kick a puppy.
Well, we couldn't go anywhere if I'm coming here talking in good faith, and this is usually a position for atheism is just the not convinced. So that
Okay.
doesn't mean I would need to kick a puppy because I'm not convinced there's a
But I'm
hell
not
either.
I'm not convinced that you're an atheist. So
All right. Well, I thought maybe we could go somewhere with this, but okay, bud. Thanks. I appreciate your time.
okay, thank you. I wish you well. So, like, that's fine if you want to say atheism is I'm not convinced. It doesn't matter how you define it. I was just goofing with that guy because I mean it's silly. What he's doing is silly to sit here and go like, "Well, I'm just not convinced." Well, I'm just not convinced. It's just silly because he's decided that like arguments are possible in a world without God. Well, how did you determine that we can even have evidence and arguments in a godless model of reality? What convinced you of that? Because you seem to think that's possible. I would love to know how that is possible. Because as far as I'm concerned, God is necessary for evidence. God is necessary for arguments. So when you say I'm not convinced, you're implying there that like you need evidence to convince you. Well, how do you have evidence without God? So you would have to defend that. Good luck defending that, though. Welcome, Zoverd.
Good morning.
Good
I
morning.
think I just joined when you were talking about kicking a puppy, so that was
Yeah.
entertaining. But I think you're implying that all morality has to come from God, right?
Yeah.
Right. So how does morality bubble up in
Well,
other societies without God then?
this is kind of like nuance to this. Okay, so like to live in a society, we need morality. So morality is like necessary. But I'm saying that like morality in the absolute or like objective sense must come from God. And otherwise we'd have to be like moral anti-realists.
Okay, so God's morality would then have to be unchanging then.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it so is the are you like a biblical like Christian? You're like the Bible is word, is the word of God and is the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so if God's morality never changes, why does God's stance on things that we see as moral and immoral change over time?
I'm not sure what. I don't think anything's changed. I think Revelation's been consistent.
I don't know. Slavery is the most glaring example in the Bible. There's literally, in the Old Testament, there's literally laws and rules for how to keep slaves.
That's
Would you argue that slavery is moral or immoral?
that's incorrect. Those
No,
are yeah, those are servants. Those are not slaves.
no,
Yeah,
no, they are. So the
I
men
know what
could
you're
be
talking
released
about.
after their servitude, but the women and
No,
children could never be released. It's defined very
yeah.
clearly in the law there.
You don't know what you're talking about. In the original King James version of the Bible, the word slave is not in there because there was no slavery in ancient Israel. You just don't know what you're talking about.
They
There's
didn't
laws.
call
There's
it.
actually laws in there that outlaw slavery. Like man stealing is outlawed. You're not allowed to oppress or be cruel to people. So these people had rights. They were treated like family. In fact, there was one instance where the master only had daughters, and the slaves would have inherited the estate. So slaves were treated as like family members. This isn't like what you're thinking about. No.
So if you're telling me that the laws that govern how to keep slaves and the specific laws, and we can go look it up right now,
They're
the
not
specific
slaves.
laws
That's
around
the word is
how.
servant. They're
Okay,
not.
you can call them servants, but they literally weren't allowed to leave.
That's incorrect. They were allowed to leave whenever they wanted. It was all voluntary. You don't know what you're talking about.
Can you give me the verse where it says that that's the case?
The verse where it says that's the case. I don't know. Like, I mean, there's a verse that about if a slave runs away, you're not to return him to his
Okay,
master.
so how about Exodus 21 verse 7? When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. She shall please her master and who is designated to her for himself.
Yeah. So that's like again, that's not the word slave, right?
Uh,
The
it's
servant.
when a man sells his daughter as a slave. This is the King.
The original King James version of the Bible doesn't have the word slave in it.
Let me flip to King James. Yeah, they say maidservant. Yeah, that's accurate. But she wasn't allowed to leave, and her job was to please her master.
Maidservant. There you go.
But she wasn't allowed to leave, and her job. Does the label matter so much?
You don't know what you're talking about.
But was she allowed to leave on her own free will?
Yes. No one was forced to do anything against their will unless you like committed a crime like today, right?
Okay, let's take it. So we're gonna get into the semantics of slavery. Let's take another
It's
angle.
not
Then, just so we can-
semantics, dude. You just don't know it. It's just your low information. You've not studied this issue.
Well, let's just say okay, I'm wrong about the slavery topic. We'll
There
say
was
that's
virtually no slavery in ancient Israel. They didn't have slavery. It's not like Egypt.
right. Right. Okay, so let's say I'm wrong about that. That's fine. I'll concede there. Is it ever okay to kill a baby?
You have to say unalive.
Well, is it okay to unalive a baby?
I don't. I mean, that's going to be situational dependent. I mean, I'm sure there's some circumstance. There's always going to be a circumstance where you could say, yeah, the right thing to do is to do this weird thing, right? Like,
So morally, it would be okay for God to kill a bunch of babies. That's fine.
well, God isn't subject to morality because God is the standard of morality. So
But-
God decides what's good and evil. So when
So he can change his morality.
he can change, no, God has an unchanging nature. But he's
Okay,
the standard.
So at one point, so you're not making any sense though. Like, is it okay to kill babies?
Sometimes probably. Like what if a baby had some like disease, and if you didn't kill the baby, then it would wipe out everyone on earth. Then it might
Let's be more specific. Can you kill all firstborn in Egypt? All babies, all children.
We have to say it on live. We keep saying the K word. We can't.
Sorry. Can you unalive all firstborn in Egypt?
God can do anything.
Blanket.
God is authorized. So like a police officer can pull you over, right? But I can't pull you over. That would be against the law if I pull you over, because the police officer is granted an authority by the system or the state or something, right? So
Mhm.
God is like he is the authority. So God is allowed to decide. He's the authority of who lives and who unalives, and so God, that's his job. So it's not wrong for God to like take someone's life.
So God could change his morality then.
No,
You just said he can do what he wants. So you're saying he could do what he wants, but he doesn't, so then it's okay.
he's the arbiter. Like it's his job to dictate life and death.
Right. So in some cases he can say all children should die, but in other cases he loves all children and they should all live. And that's okay.
There's no dichotomy that it's not like just because he takes the life of a baby doesn't mean he doesn't love the baby.
Is there, I mean, if you think about it, we're mirrored after God, right? So we would share that morality and that line, the way we think about the world in theory, right?
No, because we're in a fallen state. So sometimes God will do things in the Old Testament, especially that might seem like wrong from our perspective, but that's just a problem with us. It's not a problem with God because we don't know as humans what's good and evil. We can't decide because we're limited.
So we don't have any morality.
We're just incapable of knowing good and evil. We need
We
God.
don't know if murder is good or bad.
No, because everything is like context. There's so many factors. Let me give you an example. Say like a guy's horse runs away. Well, everyone will say, well, that's bad because you lost value, you lost property. That's bad. But then, like a couple days later, the horse comes back and it had met some wild horses while it was gone. And now you have like more, you got like 4 new horses. So that's good now. Well, now it's good your horse ran away. So what was once bad is now good because new information. And then like your son's breaking in one of the new wild horses, falls off the horse, breaks his leg. Everyone's like, well, that's bad. But then there's a war, and your son doesn't have to go to war because he has a broken leg. Well, now it's good he broke his leg. And so we can't judge on our limited perspective good and bad. We need to see the whole timeline, and only God, omniscient, knows the whole story and can correctly judge what's good and bad. When we judge what's good and bad, we have missing information, and so we don't really know.
So we shouldn't have any laws because that would be passing judgment on other
Thanks for
humans.
coming. You're so goofy. Yeah, that's what I said. We shouldn't have any laws. That's what I said. What a goof. Welcome, JD.
Hey, good morning, Preset.
What? Good morning.
What your name? Preset?
Yeah, what's
Preset
up?
Mars?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
I like to talk about God and how we know He's true and how atheism is silly.
Well, I would agree that atheism is silly. I'm agnostic.
Okay.
So,
Oh no, you
yeah.
can't actually be agnostic though.
Yeah, I can.
No. Because the Christian God is obvious, right?
Is he?
Yes. And you've decided that God is not. The Bible says he makes himself known through his invisible qualities. So he's unambiguously clear and plain for everyone to see and be aware of. So you don't believe that. You don't think God is obvious, so you're not really agnostic. You're just kind of polite about your atheism.
No, because, so here's the thing, right? If you look at the solar system, for example, there are so many things about it that are so unique compared to everything else that we can observe in the universe, right? Not only, about our planet being the right distance from the sun for water and life to be supported, but the other celestial bodies out there that protect our planet, like Jupiter and Uranus, like they're so huge that their gravity pulls in a lot of meteors and things like that could potentially hit and devastate the entire planet, right?
Okay. You're saying
Yeah.
what? There's like precise math. The solar system set up like almost perfectly to make life possible on Earth. Is that what you're saying?
Right, and compared to anywhere else that we can observe, this is why I am agnostic and not atheist, right? I don't know that there's not a God, but I don't think that the Judeo-Christian God is a real thing, right? And this is me, a
Right.
Kentuckian, born and raised in the Bible Belt, where
Well, so
the
you,
majority of my
but,
life I thought that I was going to be a pastor, so
but
well
like
versed in the Bible.
you know the Christian God's not true, so that's like you are like an atheist, you know, because you've taken a position that the Christian God is not true. So that's
I
like
said it's
I would take.
probably not, right? Like it's illogical to assume that there is a benevolent, all powerful, all good deity when you just look at the world.
Your position would be mutually exclusive with what the Bible says. Like your position can't be true and the Bible's true too, right? Because the Bible says everybody knows God and he's obvious. And if your position is like agnosticism, that's the same thing as saying that God isn't obvious, right? So
See,
you
but then there's the contradiction within the text itself, right? Because if everybody knows God and God is already known by everybody, then what's the point of even life, right? Like why have choices? Why have option? Why have the potential for heaven or the potential for hell? If everybody already knows and everything's already predetermined, then there literally is no point.
No, but we don't believe everything is predetermined. We believe our choices can change the future. And so God interacts with us to guide us and set us on the correct path. Otherwise, you would be correct. I would agree that if everything was set in stone in the future, choices didn't matter, then there'd be no point for the Bible.
Well, see, here's something else, right? Because there are several Christians that only believe in predestination, right? Like that's why there are so many different denominations, not just Christian and Catholic or, you got Pentecostal, Baptist, evangelical, there's so many different interpretations of the Bible, right? Because it's so contradictory towards itself. Nobody can really fully agree.
Well,
100%.
no.
If you had another Christian up here that had a different, Christian belief system, you could potentially debate with them, right? And you all wouldn't come to a mutual understanding.
I try to avoid
Other
that.
than,
But we could have like a debate that'd be based on like exegesis of the text, which is like we have ways to objectively interpret the text, right? So we would debate that way. But
yeah, but how do you know which one is correct?
that's what we
If God is guiding both of you,
like. It's the same way. How do you know anything is correct? Like you listen to the evidence and then you evaluate the evidence and you use your brain. God gave us you have a brain. We use our brains to determine like which evidence is best.
right? And that's why I became agnostic.
Why?
Because the evidence of reality does not support a all-powerful, all-good God.
Yes, it does. Look.
No.
Yes, it does. Look, you see.
No.
Do you have like a cat or a dog?
Yeah, I have one cat, 2 dogs, and a snake.
Okay, right. And your pets. Your cat doesn't turn into a dog, and your snake doesn't turn into a cat.
Not when I'm looking at them, but I don't know what they do when I'm not home.
Are you serious?
No, that was a joke.
But that's actually it's funny, but that's actually the David Hume argument for why.
That's the what argument?
David Hume made that exact argument. He's an atheist philosopher. He says, well, I'm an empiricist, right? So I believe knowledge comes from sense data. But there's this problem. Like when I leave the room and I'm not observing like the microwave in the room, someone could switch out the microwave. I come back to the room. I think it's the same microwave, but it's just a microwave that looks similar. It's not the same identity. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's like, where science borders philosophy, right? Like, have you ever heard of the last Thursday theory? I guess not really a theory, but more concept, right? Because there's no way that anyone can prove that all of reality didn't just spontaneously come into existence last Thursday.
Oh,
and
sure.
just
Yes, exactly.
created or come into existence with memories and things like that would, from our perspective, we would assume existence is beyond last Thursday, but we really don't know.
True. Yeah, I've heard this. It's been a while since I heard that, but yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's similar. So the idea is that because of the limitations of human knowledge or the way humans are, and we could never know this identity over time thing, that we depend upon God to reveal this to us. That it makes sense in the God world, the Christian world, that He would maintain the identity of everything when we're not looking at it.
Well, why did he just start exposing himself to humanity about 2,000 years ago in the Middle East? Right, when we have evidence to support that there are other cultures that have been around the planet significantly longer than that.
I think he's always been revealing. He's always been revealing himself to us. It's like a progressive revelation. Like, I think just the creation. I believe any state of affairs would reveal God, because God created all the states of affairs.
Even cancer?
Yeah.
Cancer is a good thing then?
Cancer is good because God has a plan of redemption. And so what happened was God created everything perfect, and we rebelled against God. So what God
right, but He made us to rebel, right? Because when He first made Adam and Eve, He knew that they were going to rebel.
Right? So yeah, but He made us. He made us with the ability to make choices, I guess, like that,
But he knew what the choice was going to be before anything was even created, right? Because He's omnipotent. That word.
Yeah, but that's why
He had a timeline all at once. So he already knew, knew, and will know everything that anybody is going to choose to do. So when He decided to create existence, He decided, let's just throw in cancer. That's good. Why not?
Yes, He knew that people would rebel against Him, and so He has a plan of redemption where we're now in the phase of redemption where God allows bad things to happen, so we learn not to love the world, and we turn towards and love God. Because when you reject God, you start to love the world instead of God, and so He allows like cancer, so we realize the world is bad, and we turn to God, and then He's going to fix it all in the end, so there won't be suffering and cancer and all that stuff.
Well, we're just going to suffer for a few thousand years until then.
Yeah,
He already knows who is going to choose to believe the evidence that He's given them, and He already knows who is not going to believe it.
Yeah, but it's still their fault. Doesn't matter that He knows it.
How is it their fault though? He knew,
because
right? Let me give you this example.
You could repent.
So if I put you in a room, right, and I give you 2 cookies, right? One has poison, right, and one will give you just like a euphoria feeling, right? I already know which cookie you're going to eat before I put you in the room, but you still make the conscious choice.
No, you don't.
To eat the bad cookie. Okay. Or the good cookie.
Okay.
Right, but I already knew which choice you were going to make before I even gave you the cookies.
Okay, hypothetically, sure.
Yeah. So how does your choice even matter, right? Like, why would I not just not give you the bad cookie? Why would I even put you in that room? Why wouldn't I just give you the euphoria cookie?
How does my choice matter? I'm not like our choices affect our future. What do you mean?
Yeah, but He already knows what future you're going to go through. So then it doesn't matter what choice you make, because if there is a God the way that you perceive it, then Him setting up these choices is an illusion, right? Because He already knows what the outcome is going to be.
No.
So your choice doesn't matter.
Just because He knows the outcome, it doesn't mean your choice. This just doesn't follow.
How does it not follow?
I don't see how I don't see this logic at all. Like, choices matter regardless of whether someone knows your choice or not. Like, you knowing if I'm going to choose the cookie, it doesn't mean my choice doesn't matter. Like, I don't see the entailment.
Then why give the choice?
Why?
Right? Like,
choice is the
result. He already
knows.
what you're going to choose, what is the point of having a choice at all?
What is the point? He wants people
But you're not going to choose something that are you going to prove God wrong by making a different choice?
So you can't like force love, right?
I mean, there's a word for that, but we're not allowed to say that on TikTok.
Well, that's
Sorry,
not
Mark.
that's
Sorry.
not typically.
I know, sorry.
People don't typically consider that love. That's typically considered an act of hate. So, like in Aladdin, when Aladdin gets the lamp, the genie says you can wish for anything but three things. You can't wish for people to be brought back from the dead. You can't wish for more wishes, and you can't wish for someone to fall in love with you because it doesn't make sense. You couldn't force. Love is something that, by definition, must be freely chosen. We can't force love. God is love. He created us as his children to have a loving relationship with him. So he wants us to love him, to turn from the world, our love of the world, repent, and love God. It's that simple.
Yeah, but he already knows who's going to choose to love him and who's not.
It
He already
doesn't
knew
matter.
that before he even created reality, right?
Cause his knowledge doesn't cause their choice. I know the sun's going to rise tomorrow. I don't cause the sun to rise tomorrow.
But that's not a choice. That is just going to happen.
Knowledge. The point is, knowledge doesn't cause the choice. You see, knowledge and causation are different.
Yeah, but we're not. That's not the same thing that we're talking about, right? You know, like if I, had like a bowling ball and I was rolling it down a hill, we know that it's going to go towards the bottom of that hill, right? There's not a choice involved. It's just a cause and effect.
Look, I could choose to have a child. I know the child is going to lie because all humans lie, but I don't cause the child to lie. Me knowing and creating the child, I'm not causing the child to lie, am I?
No, but you don't know when that choice is going to happen.
Okay, thank you for coming. You just want to bicker. It's so annoying. You're so clearly wrong and you can't admit it. Welcome. Welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So, one of the things you believe that Christianity can be objectively verified, correct?
Oh yeah. I can. Yeah.
So do you believe that someone should believe in Christianity because of the evidences?
Yes, but I don't think people make beliefs based on evidence. I think people believe things based on ethos and pathos, which is like emotions, or like because some celebrity believes something, or because their hero believes something, they'll believe what their heroes believe, or they'll believe things what they emotionally want to be true. That's what people base their beliefs on: their heroes and their emotions, not evidence.
So how would you convince somebody of Christianity? Would you appeal to their ethos, pathos, logos? Which one would you appeal to?
Yeah, I mean, I could present objective evidence, but when you present objective evidence, they just ignore it. So if I really wanted to convince someone, I would probably try to appeal to their emotions, or bring ethos. So I could say, like, sometimes I'll talk about Frederick Douglass. Okay, so Frederick Douglass is someone that both Christians and non-Christians respect as a man with high integrity, who was raised a slave, became a free man, and fought against slavery, right? So everyone respects Frederick Douglass is awesome. And so I could be like, look, Frederick Douglass, he's cool. Everyone likes Frederick Douglass, and he was a Christian. Like, arguments like that, while illogical, are more convincing to the average person who's like, the smooth-brained normal person.
So if you were talking to a person who that's logical, you would try to use logic, right?
If I was talking to a reasonable person, I mean, we could talk. If some people are reasonable, and the person who's more reasonable, you can probably maybe try to present evidence to them.
So is everybody who doesn't believe in Christianity unreasonable? Who's looked at the evidence?
Yeah, that's the problem. It's kind of like they're flat earthers, where they're irrational and they're emotional. I don't know. God, I think, is an emotional subject with people.
Wait, okay, so just to clarify, anyone, like, for example, the majority of Bible scholars are not Christians, right? These people
They're
study the
not
Bible and,
Christians.
yeah, such as Bart Ehrman. Dan McClellan is not really a real Christian, you would say. He's like, he's Mormon, but he's a Latter-day Saint.
I have no idea the statistics, and I don't even think that's relevant. Like, even if that's true, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so do you think somebody could study Christianity and still be not a Christian?
I mean, of course, like Bart Ehrman said.
Yeah. So whenever you look at the consensus in the academia of Bible scholarship, like, so for example, the anonymous authors.
This is an ethos appeal. You're saying, like, academia is my hero, and academia says X.
Well, I mean, these are people who study Christianity, right?
Yeah.
So, like,
But academia is
I trust the people to tell me the truth, right? About, for example, anonymous authors of the Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, right?
Right.
So these people who have studied it, they do not come to the same conclusion as you, right? And I think that they have valid reasons to come to that conclusion. So, for example, the slavery thing, right? I found it like really peculiar that you said servant, because a servant does not automatically mean not a slave, because, for example, you have indentured servitude, right? Do you know what that is?
The reason I agree with you, so yeah, I know. So, but servant is a neutral term, and slave is not neutral. You see the difference? Slave has negative connotations. Servant does not have negative connotations. It would need context to provide the negative connotation. So it's the same thing for this word in the Bible that the deconstruction Christian flyers are pointing to this word. The Hebrew word is aved, and aved is closer to servant because there's no negative connotation like with the word slave. So slave is a bad word to translate for aved. You would need extra context to show that there's a negative connotation that's associated with the word.
Okay, and whenever you think about servant, right, you think about somebody who, you know, gets paid a salary, who can quit whenever he wants, right?
Yeah, that's essentially what was going on here. They could leave at any time.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree with that, because, like, it is clear from the Bible that you can be your slave, or you can.
No. Okay, could there be a justified reason for beating your slave?
Could there be a justified reason for beating your servant? Probably not.
Oh, really? What if you walked in on your servant and he was raping your daughter? Are you gonna beat him?
That's a crime. If they commit a crime, then yes. But
okay, so you just contradicted yourself, Jamal. You just don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Wait, so whenever the Bible says you can be your slave, where does it say that only when they commit crimes?
It would be that would be implied if you were being charitable, but you're an asshole, and so you interpret it like an asshole. I'm not trying to be mean, but like that's straight up. What you're doing is like anti-Semitic. You're being an asshole.
Can you buy servants?
Where's the slave market in the Bible? Where's the slave market? Where do they buy them? Yeah.
It commands the Israelites to take slaves from the peoples around them.
Oh my God. Get the hell out of here, dude. You don't know what you're talking about.
See, I really love being an atheist because I've never had to defend slavery.
Oh, really?
Correct.
Do you know the Christians ended slavery in Rome?
What's your point? Your Bible supports it.
Christians ended slavery. All the pagan heathens were enslaving people, and the Christians put a stop to that.
I thought we were talking about.
I'm pretty freaking proud of Christianity. I mean, there's one mark in American history where some
yeah, when you guys made the slave Bible. Oh, just gasp and act like it didn't happen.
Because it's like you're so low information. The slave Bible was when they removed all the parts of the Bible that promoted freedom. The Bible is a book.
I know.
The fact that they had to edit
how much they took out of the Bible.
They removed the entire chapter of Exodus from the slave Bible. Do you know that?
Yeah, it's called being evil.
And so that supports that the Bible is a book of freedom. The evidence that you're trying to use. Okay, clown, get the hell out of here. These people are clowns.
Being asked here, which is
So stupid, so low information, man. What a fake laugh too. Just like nervous goof.
Empirical world.
So, anyways, there's 50 people here. Any atheists want to be rational? Show me how rational you are and mature you are by coming up here and going, but atheism is true. I lack a belief. This is all they've been doing today.
Asking for a justification for the principle of knowledge itself.
So are you asking about like justified true belief?
I mean, yeah,
that's so if you hold a belief, like say my belief is
right. So that's a typical
belief in God. How would I go about justifying that?
No, I'm asking you about what you said about a naturalistic account for knowledge, and I'm asking you how does that answer the problems of justification and epistemology? And you're correct to say it's questions like justified true belief. And so how does telling a story about an evolutionary account of where you think these things came from, how does that answer any of the questions of justification, true, and belief?
So if I were to show you a display of intelligence, and to use your example, the worm, let's say C. elegans, and it was able to make its way through a maze, like, is that not justification for?
No. So again, you're showing that you don't know what the question of justification.
Kind of
no, you're showing that you're not understanding what justification is requiring.
Okay, so then could you tell me like what justification?
I want an account of the possibility of knowledge itself. Well, in the Christian worldview, it's not a problem because if God created the world in a regular fashion through divine providence, if he guides it towards a telos or towards a purpose, then we know that it's not a dysteleological universe, it's a teleological universe. It has meaning, it has purpose external to man in the world itself. And so that means that objects have natures, they have qualities and attributes that we can pick out, and because man's made in God's image, he has a reasoning faculty by which he can do those things. And he has will, he has intention, he has emotion, he has all these faculties which perfectly makes sense in the Christian worldview as to how it's possible to have knowledge. So what I'm asking for is the question of the possibilities of knowledge. What are the preconditions and the requirements that are necessary to have knowledge at all? And you're answering by saying, well, I can give you a knowledge claim. Here's another knowledge claim. Here's another knowledge claim. Yeah, that's not answering the epistemic question.
I get your question now. So what allows, so your question is, what allows for the possibility of knowledge? So the answer to that is, well, obviously you would need a universe.
No, I didn't ask for what allows. No, that's not what I said.
You also need agents in that universe.
Okay, how do you have agents, meaningful personal agents in a universe that's purely naturalistic?
What do you mean? How do you have meaningful agents in a natural?
I mean, you're just a product of the phenomena of the natural world. You're not a meaningful agent.
No.
Okay, then you're not an agent.
That follows. I don't think that. How does that follow?
How does it follow that you're a meaningful agent in a purely naturalistic determinist universe?
So I'm not sure that there is intrinsic meaning in the universe.
Okay, then you just refuted yourself.
But I don't think that.
So you just refuted the argument that there's meaningful agents in the universe.
Right. So I was going to say.
Okay,
that
so you did refute yourself.
There isn't any intrinsic meaning in the universe.
Then there's not meaningful agents. Then there's not meaningful agents. By the way, people are wondering. I found these. I'm not dipping. It looks like a dip pod. It's coffee grinds. So you go to gas stations now. They have these. I tried dipping when I was a kid. I threw up. But now they have them with coffee. So I am dipping with a coffee grind. And I kind of like.
What What do you say there? That if there's no inherent meaning, then there are no meaningful agents. That's like a real simpler way of what I'm trying to argue. If there's no inherent meaning in reality, there cannot be meaningful agents in the ultimate sense. So, what is inherent meaning? Inherent meaning refers to meaning that exists objectively, independently of human thought or perception. It's built into the fabric of reality and does not depend on personal or collective human interpretation. Agents derive meaning from reality. So agents, such as humans, derive their capacity to create or experience meaning from the nature of reality itself. If reality has no inherent meaning, then any meaning created by agents is subjective and arbitrary. So an agent may invent or perceive meaning in their actions or experiences, but this meaning is ultimately self-imposed and lacks objective grounding. If there's no inherent meaning, the agent itself is just a random product of meaningless processes. Any meaning the agent creates would be as arbitrary as scribbling on a blank slate. To be a meaningful agent, an entity must act with purpose or significance. But if there's no inherent meaning, purpose collapses. Any purpose an agent claims is purely invented with no connection to an ultimate framework. Agents might feel like they are meaningful, but this would be an illusion if the ultimate reality is devoid of meaning. So imagine a book with no plot or central theme. Characters might act within the story, but their actions are ultimately meaningless in the context of the book. Similarly, if reality itself has no inherent meaning, the story of agents' lives lacks a true foundation for significance. Some argue that subjective meaning is sufficient for meaningful agents. However, if subjective meaning isn't tied to something objective, it vanishes as soon as the agent ceases to exist. For meaning to truly matter, it must relate to something greater than the agent, an inherent external framework of meaning. If there's no inherent meaning in reality, agents cannot be meaningful in any ultimate sense. They can invent subjective meanings, but these would be transient, arbitrary, and lack objective significance. True meaningful agency requires a reality with inherent meaning. So this is why it's such a joke when they deny God and then they believe in science, because for science to work, there needs to be this like inherent meaning. I'm glad I listened to Jay Dyer. That was a good nugget. That was a good knowledge nugget from Jay Dyer, the book reader. Do you see all them books he reads? Got a reader. What you reading for?
Why do you think it's not in your best interest to have stuff stolen from you or to be thrown off the stage?
Why is it not in my best interest?
Yeah. No, you don't get to think, oh, that's self-evident. It's like nothing's self-evident to the skeptic. Let's keep that in mind.
Nothing's self-evident, you know.
Well, so,
because if we're going to get skeptical here, we might as well go all the way to the bottom for dictating what's good for us.
No, because if you chop off my head, that is clearly not good for me. And it doesn't matter whether it was an act of free will or if it was my lawnmower.
It's clearly not good for you because you think you're valuable and worth preserving.
Yes.
Okay, that's the issue. Why do you think you're valuable and worth preserving?
Because I am the descendants of people who thought they were valuable and worth
Did he really just say that? Monkey value.
Who thought they were valuable and worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think that have killed themselves. But this is not a statement about This is not a statement about intrinsic value.
I don't know. Yes, I think
No,
it is.
it's
Okay.
not. They were valuable.
What? Did Matt really just say that I'm valuable because I'm the descendant of people who saw themselves as valuable? Literally, like, I thought Jordan's arguments were bad in the first about the LSD stuff. That was one of the dumbest arguments I've ever. Imagine appealing to the fact that your like lineage because monkey value, right? Monkey have value. I have value because monkey value. Right?
And worth preserving, and the ones who didn't think that
pure bullshit. Matt, you just lost. Okay.
Why? Monkey. As human beings, we're uncomfortable with saying I don't know. This is something I'm trying to teach people to become more comfortable with.
Oh, is that right, Matt? Really? Because the whole skeptical project that appears under the smoke and mirrors of agnosticism and humility, as we saw from our debate, is actually a dogmatic perspective of rigid what can and cannot be and duplicity, right? Because Matt says, don't believe in anything that you can't empirically ground or justify. I asked Matt 3 or 4 basic questions about things that he believes in that are non-empirical, and he could not justify or give an account for them. And in response, he says, it just is. I don't have to give an account for it. It just is.
Because I think there's a lot of like good, this was a good video he did where he's going over a debate between Matt Dillahunty and Jordan Peterson. And he does a good job of like making fun of Matt Dillamonkey.
How many times did he say in the debate, it just is? Do you understand that in a debate, that is losing? That is a completely baseless, ad hoc loss. The very thing that you're grounding your position on, you're saying just is. Now, as an opponent in the debate, I can reply by saying, well, God just is. If you can be ad hoc, I can be ad hoc. I'm not making that argument. I'm not saying God just is. I'm illustrating the point. Okay, all the idiot atheists in that debate thought I was saying that God just is. I'm illustrating that you can't make an ad hoc argument, dude. These people are like, atheism is a mental illness. It's like a mental illness. It really is. I mean, they think that theism is a mental illness. Do the very thing that out of your mouth you say you can't do within like a minute. Jordan was like pure weak sauce, dude, for like the first hour, dude. It was.
Yeah, if you want to debate me, you can request up. I'll debate anyone. I don't care. Be warned, though, I'm below 100 IQ, so it's hard to debate me because I don't know anything.
Weak sauce, and it was. But Matt's arguments are so bad that Jordan's like little kind of pimp slap was enough to just end this debate.
But this is not a statement about.
I mean,
I don't
the
know.
audience
Yes,
is the audience even laughing at this point because that was literally the stupidest appeal I've ever heard in a debate. Now I take that back. T-Dump, Mark Brahman. Nobody will ever top those two, and the Kurgan for dumbest arguments of all time. But this one is in the top 10. Remember this, right? Jordan asked a great question. Why do you think you have value? Literally, Matt's argument, Matt's reply is because I'm descended from beings. By the way, remember, he said that there's not a basis to believe in consciousness. Here he is appealing to conscious beings that he descended from. He's already contradicted himself like 10 times in this debate. And he literally says because they thought they had value. Dude, wow. This is what we get, right? When we have people who have no knowledge of philosophy at all, thinking they're making arguments, appealing to the dumbest shit imaginable to prove their argument. And who actually thought that was a good argument in the audience, right? Do the monkeys in the audience think that's a good argument?
This is not a statement about intrinsic value.
I don't know. Yes.
What? This is not a statement about intrinsic value. About Jay's like flabbergasted. What? What did he say? What did that atheist say? Welcome, Brett.
Hey, welcome.
What would you like to say?
Well, lately I've been, I'm not a scientific person, but I've been
Nice.
looking into the quantum string theory, and it amazes me little by little how science has proven God, how God created things.
No, science doesn't prove God, though. It's just like the fact that we can do science proves God.
Well, what I'm saying is scientists who don't believe in God are coming up with, like they say, they got the particles down to a quark, and then they looked into a quark, and they said, well, actually, it's a frequency. It's light that has a frequency. That this is what makes creation. Well, this frequency is sound. They're using string theories, and they're explaining it as like a string of a violin. There's infinite notes, infinite frequencies to make sound, which makes life. When you're going right back to the Bible, it says that God spoke creation into existence. So light created by frequency, by sound, creation. It's just eventually they're going to come around full circle and just because they don't understand it. They keep trying to create light, and they don't realize what they're actually, like you say, they're proving God. They're proving the Bible.
I wouldn't go with arguments like that. I would go with the transcendental argument for God, because if you do an evidentialist approach, they're just gonna avoid any evidence with skeptical arguments.
Well,
So
they are at this point, but I say eventually they're gonna. They're gonna have to.
you have to,
It's just
you have to
everything they're
defeat,
proving.
you have to defeat their skepticism, because they'll just say they're skeptical of everything. So the transcendental argument for God is an anti-skeptical argument. So they don't know how to respond to it, and they just make themselves look like idiots when you present that argument.
Yeah. Well, like I say, especially the other one about I really enjoy that just amazed me was they were explaining the speed of light, and how the speed of light, as you approach the speed of light, time stops, slows down, stops.
Mhm.
And so a proton, not a proton, what is it? The photon that comes from the sun takes 8.3 seconds to reach Earth. But yet, in relation to the theory of relativity, says that relative to the proton, it was created, traveled 8.3 seconds to reach Earth, and immediately dissipated. So, and it's relative to it was instantaneous. So how can you be instantaneous but yet traveled 8.3 seconds? So the whole point is it just proves God's omnipresence. He can be here, he can be there, he can be everywhere all at once. Like I say, the more they try to explain their theories, the more they're actually explaining what the Bible says. It amazes me.
Okay, man. Well, thanks for coming, man.
All right.
I mean, I just want. Anytime you do an evidentialist argument, though, they're just going to be skeptical. So I think you have to do an anti-skeptical argument. So that's why the transcendental argument is so perfect, because any attempt of their questioning or skepticism of the argument just proves the argument's true. So it's a nuclear strength apologetic, as Darth Dawkins puts it. Again, it's not going to convince people, even though it's true, because people just believe what they want to be true, or they believe what their hero believes is true. So a lot of these people have their science hero or their hero academic, and they'll just believe whatever their science heroes believe. It's like when LeBron James endorses a product and they go, "Oh, I'm gonna buy that product because I like LeBron James." When like Neil deGrasse Tyson endorses nonsensical atheism, they go, "Yes, I'm going to be an irrational atheist because Neil deGrasse Tyson is cool or Bill Nye is cool, and I want to be cool."
Dude, he just asked, why do you think you have value? You said because monkey think it have value. And then you said this is not a thing about intrinsic value. Dude, why is anybody listening to these people? I can't imagine believing that this is a good argument.
Yes, think it is.
No, I don't even know, like, what fallacy do we class that under? This is such a dumb argument. Like, I'm having, like, my mind is in a twist. I can't, like, I'm mystified. I feel like I'm in Jordan's trip from earlier, trying to figure out what fallacy is this? I have value because I come from a line of monkey that think it have value. I don't even know what fallacy this is. Monkey fallacy.
Monkey fallacy.
Is it just a version of a circular appeal? It's begging the question. First of all,
Yeah, it is
because number one,
odd, right?
Dude, this is just so like all like.
Oh man, that's so funny. That's so funny. I have value because monkey have value. Welcome, Pharaoh.
Good afternoon, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, good, good. I have a question about Christianity, heaven, the birth, the death, and the resurrection, and basically heaven. My question derives from Revelation chapter 7, where it's described that 144,000 will be sealed, and those are the ones that are described as kind of being closer to God, closest to God. They were the virgins. I don't know if it's physical or spiritual they mean, but there's 12,000 for each tribe of Israel, the 12 tribes. Are you familiar with that verse?
No, I'm below 100 IQ, and I'm not like a Bible scholar, so like I don't know why this is not really appropriate. I don't know why you would ask me questions about this stuff. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Because number 2, it says Christianity is objectively proven.
Yeah.
So therefore, if it's objectively proven, and a lot of that is the resource of the Bible, I guess, and some of the proof. I wanted to just drill into some of the detail of that objectively proven scriptures, and see if it is rational, I guess.
But you're assuming you can be rational from a godless worldview.
Well, I'm asking you if what you're saying, that things are baseless and irrational. So I'm not asking God to tell me if it's baseless or rational. I'm just asking, does it have a base, and is it rational in your view? Because if not, there's no sense in debating something if we're only gonna say God's standard. I mean, we're not gods, right? Are you God?
I mean, like in the Christian worldview, like our ability to be rational and logic would be grounded in God. So that would be God's rational.
Got it. So basically, it's a circular reference. So basically, what you're saying is we can have discussions, but then at the end of the day, if it seems to be rational what we're saying, or irrational, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because it's based on God's rationalism or baseline anyway. So anything that we do goes back to that, and we can never understand it. So therefore, it's kind of like a circular reference. It's trying to get an answer from something that you can never really plug in the inputs for, right?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Like when we're talking about justification, the chain of justification, it's like you provide an argument, right? But you could just keep asking, well, what's your argument for that? Well, what's your argument for that? Forever. Anytime you make an argument, you have to provide another argument forever. So eventually, you're going to have to either refer to like a previous argument, or there'd be an infinite regress of arguments. Well, an infinite regress of arguments not going to do you any good, because that would be just an obfuscation that you don't really have a justification, right? So we're going to have to like use some sort of a circular reasoning to justify things eventually. So that's what I'm saying, is that what is ultimate? The ultimate is how we stop the chain of justifications. So that thing is going to be self-authenticating. And since I'm appealing to God as ultimate, and it's like a different type of fact, then it's not like begging the question circular reasoning. It's like a worldview circular reasoning, which isn't invalid.
Okay, I get it. So circular reasoning, we know that circular reasoning and circular references come up with errors. I mean, at least in Excel, right? But what you're saying is, hold on, let me just finish. Hold on, let me just finish. But what you're saying is that rather than the circular reference being in Excel, we'll take it out of Excel, and therefore it's rational because it's just going to God. I guess, yes. So there's no sense in even talking about things that we're going to argue about. Is there a way that we could bypass all of this by not arguing and agreeing on certain things? Because if we have an argument, if you and I have a disagreement, it is going to be a circular reference, because we're just circulating back to the thing that we're saying, you're saying is real and I'm saying is not real. So it's just circulating back to that. So is there any way that we could just agree on certain things and see if that's rational, since there would be a non-argumentative baseline?
The debate is over what is ultimate, okay? The ultimate is that which explains everything. I'm saying God explains everything. God is ultimate, okay?
And has God explained anything to you specifically?
And I know that because it's revealed. And
okay. So can we talk about the things that are revealed to you? Can we start there?
You can't deny it due to the impossibility of the contrary.
I'm not trying to deny anything. I'm trying to agree with the things
Dude. So what would be your ultimate? What would explain everything that's not God?
I don't want you to explain everything. I just want to agree with something. Certainly we have a common baseline. Which God?
It says Christianity on the freaking screen, dude. You know I'm a Christian. Why are you asking?
Christian God. Okay, no, because you said, "Oh my God," and I don't know. Okay,
I'm a Christian.
I know, but there's many different Christians. David Koresh was a Christian as well. There's many different Christian types, but I don't want to go there. Okay, so you're talking to the Christian God. Okay, fine, brother. What I'm asking you is there anything?
Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. That was an accident. I didn't mean to do that. My bad. I meant to mute myself.
Okay, I was just asking, is there anything that has been revealed to you that we can talk about that you think I'll probably be like, yep, that makes sense. That's all I'm saying, because if we have pieces of things that are true that have been revealed to you and I agree, then it's not an argument. It's just piecing together rational in your worldview items and see if they're consistent. That's what I want to do.
I don't care what you want to do. The debate is over the ultimate. That's where we disagree. I'm saying God is ultimate and he's revealed himself, right? So when you
say right? When you say right, he's revealed himself. He's revealed himself to you?
Everyone. So what do you say is ultimate? That's not God.
Okay, let me ask you this then, since he's revealed himself to you. What color is God?
Getting mad. I'm getting mad because sometimes arguments are so bad and so dumb they don't even fit into a classification, right? It's like this argument is almost like, I'm happy. Why do you think that such and such? Because I'm happy. Like, what?
Darth, this guy I just booted. He asked me. Okay, I go. He's trying to frame the debate. You know how atheists are framing the debate constantly. So this guy's trying to do his, their atheist framing, and then I'm like, no, huh? So then I go, no, dude, we disagree about like the ultimate. Okay, so like I'm saying God's ultimate, and He's revealed Himself to us. Like, what do you say is ultimate? That's not God, right? And he goes, oh, God's revealed Himself to you, and I'm like, yeah, to everyone. And he goes, what color is God?
Yeah, it's time to stop talking with somebody who either he's colossally stupid or, excuse me, they're just trolling. Okay.
What color is
Do
God?
we not have sufficient inductive reason given the overwhelming. Hold on.
I didn't even say anything, Darth. I just sat there in silence for a second, and then I just kicked him because it was just like flabbergasted.
I think that shows it's a very mature response. We do not see, except on rare occasions, an attempt to try to be mature and intelligent about the dispute. We just see a chronic, immature, literally immature behavior. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a sore throat.
Everyone who came up this morning was giggling like a little girl, like like constantly.
Time to get rid of them.
They're ridiculous.
And people think I have a short fuse. No, I don't have a short fuse. After I've been doing this for 14 years, I no longer put up with people who are clearly, abundantly clearly being deceptive and evasive with me. There's no point in dealing with them.
I was just playing the clip from Matt Dillahunty talking to Jordan Peterson, and Jordan Peterson asked him like, Matt, why do you as a human have value? And he goes, I came from descendants of people who valued themselves.
This is why I call him Matt the Bloviator. Okay?
Because if they didn't value themselves, they would unalive themselves. And they didn't unalive themselves.
You know what? You don't have to continue. It is just so absurd that he would even expect people to take what he's saying seriously.
So Jay Dyer tried to cash out what Matt was saying, and he goes, so you're saying I have value because Monkey has value?
Yeah, we're just dealing with the irrational people. I ask the simplest of questions, and they immediately become evasive. Please explain to me how you determine the world is not evidence for God. Right? And then they're immediately evasive.
And so what Dillahunty is saying there is that there's some sort of intrinsic value within man or something. And then within a minute later, he starts arguing.
How is there intrinsic value in molecules in motion?
Well, yeah, but I'm not saying his argument was justified. I'm saying he was just claiming that, right? He was claiming, that's what I should say. He was claiming there was intrinsic value in man. And then a minute later, he starts arguing that there isn't intrinsic values. Like the guy just doesn't even know what he's talking
about. He's awful to listen to. He's just absolutely awful.
They talk out of both sides of their mouth, one because of ignorance and two because of duplicity.
they assert there's no evidence for God, and you say, "Good, can you explain that?" And then they start repeating the same claim all over again, and you say, and then when you point out you're not explaining or defending your assertion, you're just repeating the assertion, and then they go, "You're shifting the burden of proof. Atheism's just a rejection of a claim."
Then Jay Dyer's like trying to analyze this like argument that he has value. He's like, what is even the fallacy? Like, this is so bad. I'm so mystified. Like, I can't. And then they're playing, whoever edited the video is playing the X-Files music. It sounds really funny.
And this is one of their preeminent representatives.
Yeah. He's literally like, you couldn't create a worse debater than Matt Dillahunty. Like, he's more like an audience member that's sitting on stage.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's exactly what it is. Just somebody who's just yada 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 yada.
Because he always talks about, well, I'm not convinced. Well, it's not your job as a debater to be convinced or not convinced. The debater is supposed to debate and defend his position. The audience is the one we're supposed to convince. But so Matt, when he debates, he'll try to frame himself as a debater in one instance, then he'll be an audience member, and then now he's the moderator. Like, he just keeps switching roles. It's very devious. And then that's why we get people. He's so popular, right? So they learn how to debate from him, and that's why they act the way they act when they come up here a lot. It's really sad. He's like setting his audience up for failure. Because all he's giving them is cliches. So it might work versus people that are unprepared, but it's just like a flat earth. Like flat earth arguments work on people who aren't prepared for them. It's the same thing. Says the dude peddling delusions. I think it's really what he's doing. It's a type of like a grift. Like, how is Dillahunty any different than like a Joel Osteen?
Well, to be fair, Joel Osteen does not ask for money.
You just asked them to tide.
Look, I consider Joel Osteen a false teacher.
Yeah. But he teaches a prosperity gospel, so he is, he's indirectly asking for money.
Well, you have a point there. Like, on his TV show, he doesn't ask for people to send him money. They just stupidly do. Okay.
I wonder how rich Dillahunty is. He's got to be a millionaire, right?
Who?
Is Dillahunty like a millionaire off atheism?
I have no idea.
Can I search his net worth? They were pretty popular.
He does have a good amount of people who pay him monthly.
There's 4 years ago, there's a Reddit asking what's Matt Dillahunty's net worth. Doesn't look like anyone knows. Maybe it's not that much.
Welcome, bro. Do you accept God as your creator?
How have we been doing today?
I didn't hear you.
How are you doing today?
Okay. Did I ask you a question?
I didn't hear you.
All right, hold on. Let me put my headset in before I kick you.
Oh, the atheist experience.
So what is the basis for Christianity as objectively?
All right, I put my headset in. Do you accept God as your creator?
No.
Can you tell me why there's no God?
Because Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Okay. Is it an
Ordinary evidence
extraordinary
has not
claim
been
to
provided.
say is it is saying there is no God an extraordinary claim?
No.
So it's an ordinary claim?
Yes.
How is saying there's no God an ordinary claim?
Because if you wish to provide a different idea or come up with a
Yeah, that
cause, then you are the one who is.
you are really stupid.
Can you
I
not
mean,
speak over me
I'm
when I'm
serious.
answering
You
your
are really
question?
stupid. Listen to me carefully.
Could you
If
not
I
speak
tell
over
you
me
that
when I'm
there's
answering your question?
listen carefully, okay? If I tell you that there's something that is absolutely and eternally universally true, that's an ordinary claim.
What?
If
That's
I
exactly what
give
the
you
argument.
listen to me carefully. If I assert to you that something is universally and eternally true, okay? Is that an ordinary or an extraordinary claim?
That's an extraordinary claim.
Good. When you invoke atheism, that is a universal statement. There is no God anywhere at any time anywhere. Okay? That's a universal claim that in the totality of everything, God does not exist. Everything in the world exists with independence from God. That is not an ordinary claim. If I said to you, the sky is blue, that would be an ordinary claim. If I said water is wet, that would be an ordinary claim. If I said to you, Donald Trump won the election, that would be an ordinary claim. To assert that there is a God or not a God can be classified under your rubric as extraordinary claims. Are we clear?
Yes.
Okay. So when you say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, do you have extraordinary evidence for the extraordinary claim that there is no God?
You've put the preposition in the wrong perspective.
Sir, you're not answering the question. If you dodge one more time, I will kick you. Do you understand the rule?
You only like arguing against
Goodbye,
people full
goodbye.
of prepositions, don't you?
Pete, get
Because
rid
you're
of him.
weak-minded, actually.
No, I'm not weak-minded. I don't put up with
Incredibly
people who
weak-minded, with a weak position, and you know.
I don't put up with people who cheat. Okay. So immediately when they get caught with their hand in the cookie jar, then they start to attack. Okay. So because I'm confronting you with your being blatantly evasive, right? I'm weak-minded. Where do they grow these people? These people are mentally and spiritually warped.
So you're like straight off on the attack. Does that mean that your hand's already in the cookie jar as well? I mean, you like start this whole premise off basically with your hand in that proverbial cookie jar that you just claimed they were in.
Yeah, that was just a real bizarre start off. Did I ask him if he accepted the existence of God? And the answer is I did. He said no. I asked him to give an account of why God does not exist. He gave me a Christopher Hitchens platitude. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, right? That's just a cliche. Now, he first said that atheism was an ordinary claim, which was a lie. I can't imagine that he's this stupid. Then, upon questioning, he switched and acknowledged that atheism is an extraordinary claim. Then, when I asked him to fulfill his own criterion to provide me with extraordinary evidence for his extraordinary universal claim, he refused to do so. And he proceeded to dodge. And you're going to fault me as doing something wrong? Are you a released mental patient from the asylum?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to Saint Slimmer?
Goodbye.
No.
Goodbye.
Wait.
Bye.
Don't run me.
Bye. Where do they grow these people? You see, people will be completely irrational, okay, when there are not immediate consequences to them about things that they care about. All right, it's called leverage. this is why in many jurisprudence jurisdictions in the world, they have penalties, jail and fines for perjury, because if they're not going to get bitten in their rear end, so to speak, the people will lie in the judicial system. People still lie in the judicial system, but they'll lie to the extent that they think that they can get away. With people.
They usually get tripped up when they start lying because then their story starts becoming inconsistent.
No, they just outright no, I'm just telling you that people will lie in order to, I don't want to say the save face, in order to cheat in the interaction rather than to humble themselves
Yeah.
when there's not immediate personal consequences. Right?
Right. There's just like some random person that's calling in so they can just say like whatever, that they don't have a reputation or nothing.
No, people will lie to their loved ones, even their husbands or wives, as long as they don't think that there might be consequences that they will suffer a loss of something they dearly want. This is why, like, for example, in courts of law, when a judge reprimands somebody in the courtroom, that they're in contempt of court, and if they continue, they're going to be slapped with a hefty fine or jail time. Most people shape up. Now, sometimes idiots continue on, and then they get hit with contempt of court and jail time, or a fine. What I'm saying to you is, people come up here and they'll just lie, they'll cheat in the conversation, because there's no what's it to them anonymously lying to a forum like this?
Well, it's kind of unfair because we have God on our side, so I guess.
Yeah, don't you love it? Guy goes, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And then I showed him what a bankrupt slogan that is. And then he says to me, I'm weak-minded.
I mean, to me, the vast majority of people believe in God. So wouldn't atheism be the extraordinary claim?
Well, I don't approach it that way.
Yeah.
I'm just tackling their ridiculous slogan that the invocation of God, they want to characterize it as an extraordinary claim. Okay. But if it's an extraordinary claim, then the negation of God also is an extraordinary claim.
Yeah.
Is the denial that there is a creator, okay? Is that an ordinary claim?
It's a universal, unqualified declaration, which would be hard to establish without.
Look, if you cash it out this way, you see, if they were really smart, they would give it a silly analogy by saying that there's a pink polka dotted dragon in a pink tutu doing tap dancing in my backyard. That would be an extraordinary claim. Now, to deny that would not be an extraordinary claim. Okay? But not so with atheism. It's because they have this cliched and childish view of God that they think of it as an extraordinary claim, whereas their denial of God is not to be reckoned to be an extraordinary claim.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning. Do you accept God as your creator?
Not quite. I'm actually an agnostic atheist.
Will you accept right now the necessity of God for everything?
I don't hold conviction in either direction. I just find like the
Sir,
evidence.
sir, that's a dodge of an answer.
No, it's not.
I'll
That's the
ask a
reason why I'm
question
an
again.
agnostic
If you
atheist.
dodge, if you see what you're doing right now is you're going into argumentative mode. Okay, I asked you, will you accept something? Okay, I didn't ask you to give me a filibuster response. Will you accept, affirm, and assert that the necessity of God is true for everything?
No.
Okay, that affirmation that you have right there, that you will not accept that it is true, that God is the necessary precondition, that constitutes an indirect denial of God's existence.
No, it's not.
Denial of some. Okay, sir, how old are you?
38.
Okay, have you ever heard of modus ponens?
Okay, have you ever heard of Platoism?
Okay, goodbye. Yes, I have. Goodbye. You're done. Bye.
You're very upset.
Yeah. Notice how they just play this tap dancing and dodging game, right? See, I think you should follow my practice here. Don't suffer these kinds of fools.
Did he
These
say?
people who
Did he say Play-Doh or Play-Toe? I thought he said Play-Doh.
it makes no inference. He made it very clear he had no intention of carrying on a transparent adult interaction.
Yeah, that's why I was like, he's playing with Play-Doh.
That's why I'm just saying, not even for kicks should you put up with this. I don't. I'm just saying, once it's clear to me that they're going to persist in evasive tactics, right? Then there's no point in talking with them because they're going to continue.
Mm.
Who are the four people in that picture? I see Michio Kaku. I see Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Bill
Is that
Nye.
Carl Sagan? Bill Nye is up in the upper left, and who's that? Carl Sagan on the right.
I didn't know who was the top right. If it's Carl Sagan.
I think that's Carl Sagan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Bill Nye. And by the way, that cartoon actually makes Bill Nye look good looking. Have you ever seen Bill Skeletor Nye recently?
Yeah, that's definitely Carl Sagan. Yeah, that's like the four pop.
Bill Nye looks like he suffers from anorexia.
Yeah.
Looks like Skeletor.
These guys crack me up. They're like pop scientists.
Yeah.
The Bible's got some amazing verses about how people are fools. I love them. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. What a great... Paul is a genius.
Paul was a highly educated man. I think he was a student of Gamaliel.
I love his letters. They're great. That's amazing they still have them. They're preserved.
All right, I'm just going to listen and I'm going to get something to eat while I'm listening.
Yeah, I was just playing. I was just kind of playing a clip of the Dillahunty debate. Sometimes we could analyze debates a little bit on here.
No, the good thing, the only good thing about listening to Dillahunty is that it's a course in listening to somebody bullshit.
Yeah, it's funny what passes as intellectualism. Like they got Jordan Peterson and Matt Dillahunty on the stage, as if they're
Jordan Peterson has a far greater intellect, even though I disagree with him because he's a.
But he says a lot of
union
things too, so it's like these guys aren't like cutting edge geniuses or something.
No, Dillahunty is just it's awful listening to him, and I'm not saying it's just because I disagree with him. It's just he's just a well practiced bullshitter.
It's amazing that some of these atheists get up on the stage when like Destiny gets to go on Pierce Morgan. I guess they intentionally bring people that are full of crap to kind of like
Well,
show the
Destiny is just an internet freak.
I know, but it's crazy that he's like going on Pierce Morgan like consistently.
It's shocking. But then again, on these shows, look at other people they bring on there that are complete intellectual losers.
Well, I think they do that on purpose to show the absurdity of like.
Yeah, I don't fault Pierce Morgan. I don't agree with Pierce Morgan, but no. Anyway, I'm gonna go into radio silence here.
All right, sounds good. Fellas. Destiny. I love it when Destiny was talking to Jesse Lee Peterson, and Jesse Lee Peterson was like, "Destiny, isn't that a girl's name?" Oh man, Jesse Lee Peterson cracks me up. I don't really like him though, but like he's got some allegations. They seem pretty credible to me. I don't know. Although people make allegations against Darth that aren't true. But these are people that like worked, were like close friends with Jesse Lee Peterson. So it seems more credible. I haven't really followed it. I guess nothing came of it. As a Christian, isn't it objectively proven, bro? What do you mean? Christianity is objectively proven with the transcendental argument for God. There's some former employees and people that worked with Jesse Lee Peterson that said he was like grooming young men, basically. And there was, stuff happened. But I don't know, I guess nothing came of it. Because I didn't really hear. Yeah, I think he's kind of guilty too. Slurms. He could be one of those, like, there's those people that are closeted, but then they like express a hatred to what they are. He could be one of them. One of them bigots. We don't tolerate your kind, bigot. If church is each took in 2 homeless people, we could eradicate homelessness, but instead, I don't know if it's that simple. I think there's a lot of like mental illness to homelessness where people like choose that lifestyle. Because we have social safety nets and welfare programs to help people, and like people just choose not to use them. So I don't know why you're saying like this is now the church's fault. Churches do help homeless people. I was raised Catholic, and growing up, my mom made us help serve homeless people Christmas dinner every year before we could open our presents. And I remember I hated that as a kid, but it's good that she did that because we help people. I was just wanting my presents, man. I didn't have any patience for that. Welcome, theology.
Yeah, I just want to say that I was homeless at one point, and a parachurch ministry helped me out, and then I became a minister at a Christian rehab where we helped an exuberant amount of homeless people. So, as someone who's been a minister, been homeless, it's just, you take the evidence for what you will, but yeah, the church helps out homeless people. That's a ridiculous claim.
Am I wrong when I said that it's like some people choose the lifestyle as like it's kind of like a mental illness thing?
No, 60% of homeless people choose it, and that's
I believe the figure. I believe the figure's higher.
Yeah, that's just from what I've deduced from like personal first-hand experience. The
And a lot
actual
of these
number could be
people,
higher, but
a
I've
lot
been
of them,
homeless.
a lot of them have alcohol and drug chronic problems, and alcohol and drug induced mental problems that can either be temporary or permanent.
This is true, and somebody who used to run a Christian rehab, yeah, it's a lot of them would rather get high and be homeless than be sober and live somewhere. That's just the truth.
That's sad. That's an example of like the bondage of sin. Where you got a lot of. I'm gonna mute you, Darth. You got a lot of background, Darth. So when you're not talking, but yeah, like that's like an example.
Sorry about that.
The bondage of sin, right? Like they have this desire for whatever pleasure. Their desire for their pleasure is greater than their desire to like make good decisions for their life.
Yeah, I mean, it's an inordinate desire that causes even the natural desires, such as like food, shelter, well-being. Basically, what addiction is fundamentally and spiritually is idolatry, and that God is a cruel God. I mean, you can say it's self-worship for the pursuit of pleasure, fine, but it always boils down to idolatry, and you'd much rather please the God of your pleasure and the God of the rush of getting high than anything else, to a point where it becomes all encompassing. I've been there. It's idolatry.
I think they like rationalize it as they think it's like a medicine or they need it and it helps them and stuff. But it's like it's irrational because it's like, how is this thing helping you? And clearly it's like making your life obviously like worse, right?
Yeah, feelings are not always rational, and the victim mentality, which is I would argue is a result of secularism, communism, a bunch of isms. The victim mentality fuels addiction. Poor me, let's do this, let's pop this, let's drink this. Yeah, the victim mentality is devastating, especially to young men, and they'll decay a country. That's just the truth.
I think we're in like a mental health crisis, and that's like an example of it. And then I think Christianity can help because when people lose purpose and meaning in their life, they feel a type of like alienation or like detachment from themselves, even from the world. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible does say that those who pursue idols, their sorrows shall multiply. And there's a level of like Nietzschean insanity that people go through when they find out, like, just look at what's his name, one of my favorite actors, Jim Carrey. He's done like a full circle around to like atheism, agnosticism, nihilism, to a bunch of other isms. Now he went through New Age, and now he's like, Jesus might be right. And he has every earthly pleasure that he can imagine. So yeah, this is why rich people are not necessarily, and I know rich people, they're not necessarily happy because they're rich. In fact, having access to every single pleasure and creaturely comfort could actually multiply your sorrows because it becomes idol worship fundamentally.
One comedian had a joke about God, what was it? I can't remember. It was like Cat Williams, where he was saying about how like money can like unalive you basically, or money can be really bad for you. Or he said money like amplifies your problems. He's saying like, say you are like you have a really bad drinking problem, but because you're broke, you can't afford to drink that much. Well, you win the lottery, right? You don't have to work. You can just sit around drinking all day. You can afford anything you want, and you end up like unaliving because of like a liver failure or something, right? So it's kind of funny how like money can actually amplify our problems, where we could like I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying that. I just thought came to my head.
No, I mean, when you think about it, that definitely sounds like something Cat Williams would say. But when you think about it, like you always hear like money changes people, but not really. Money just shows you who they really were, because money there's a direct like causal link to like power, not all the time and not absolutely, but like the more money you have, the more power you have, and power and money really exposes, like, you could just imagine if you had $14 billion and you can do whatever you want with no repercussions, not even from the law. Like, you better have Christ and you better have character and integrity, because if not, I mean, you're gonna do whatever pleasure presents itself according to your sinful nature, and then
You're
so
gonna
like
end up
no,
with the P Diddy freak off party, right?
for sure you're gonna be ordering 100 bottles of baby oil. You know what I
It
mean?
blows my mind that Cat Williams completely called that out, and then he literally got arrested like 6 months later or whatever. Like that was crazy. Like Cat Williams is like kind of prophetic in that sense. That was crazy.
Yeah, I think Cat Williams is fighting his previous handlers. That's what I think it is, and he's using it to his advantage, but it's going to cost him. You know what I mean? Because there's only so much you can do that, but it's the tale as old as time. Rich people have power, they hide in the shadows, and they control everything. That's how it's always been.
Yeah, they got these old boys club and the things they get up to at their freak off parties. Pretty weird. Like, it's so weird how we look up to these people, and then behind closed doors, they're just like the worst. It's like, what did Jesus say? The whitewashed tombs.
Yeah, like, and when you realize that the Beatles were totally fake, that they were literally made by a corporation to subvert to subvert young people at that time, it's so crazy once you actually do the research. And the problem is, conspiracy struggles to think in logical categories, but once you kind of are able to like think consistently, you can like dive down that tunnel. But like, yeah, man, the Beatles, all that stuff, it's all propped up. It always.
Were they saying the media was a scandal at the time that like John Lennon said that we're more popular than Jesus, or was it Paul McCartney? One of them said that.
It was John, I think, and I stood in the spot he got unalived in New York. I think I don't know who it was, but anyways, I think there'd be a certain point where God's like, okay, all right, bro, and then he's just like, you continue to blaspheme, I'm just gonna allow wickedness, and he just removes his hand and allows a psychopath from Kansas to come out of his royal town and hunt you down in New York. You know what I mean?
Very similar to what happened recently at the Luigi. Dude, I can't believe that people are making this guy out to be a hero, because like, I'm afraid that more people will idolize what Luigi did and then try to do the same thing. I'm afraid that's going to happen, because we don't want that. We don't want, because think of what's going to happen in the world if people start doing all this like vigilante crap. We're going to have a complete crackdown. We're going to have like police drones flying around monitoring it. Like, it'll just lead to a more controlled society if we rebel like that.
Yeah,
We have to be.
you're right, bro. It's scary.
That just gives the elite an excuse to exert more power over us. So that's what violence is not a solution. Like, these people are not thinking.
To me, I've been because I help. I study and research because my brother is a researcher. Because he does film or whatever. And I'm starting to realize that like communism and like nationalism are really just tools in the hands of the elites. So like if the elite wants to crack down, it'll allow a fox to get like amped up, and then it'll leave like a crack in the fence just so the fox can go take out so many hens. Because honestly, they want to crack down on the hen's freedom, so they allow the fox in, and at some point you have to ask, who does it benefit for A, B, and C? And it does. America's too free in order to push their agenda. So what do? They make villains and they make heroes. It's a tale as old as time, dude. And I see Satan through all of it.
Oh yeah, you always gotta ask when stuff happens is who benefits. That goes back to like Rome, when Nero wanted to build this monument, but he couldn't build the monument because there's like privately owned homes and stuff or whatever where he wanted it. And what happened was there's this like huge fire, and Nero blamed the fire on the Christians. But lo and behold, the structures that were where he wanted his monument were destroyed in the fire. So it benefited Nero. So people would say it was like que bono, who benefits, and they blamed the Christians, but really it was Nero who benefited from the fire. So that Nero caused the fire is the idea. So when we looked at who benefits from these situations, and that's probably who's causing them. So
Yeah, it's a tale as old as time, bro. I mean, I think conspiracy theorists get caught up too much in the weeds. Like I always tell my older brother, because when you do a lot of research, you can go down some real and I have like this philosophy which I'm still examining to see if it's like logically incoherent, if it's logically consistent. But I don't think that we have the intellectual capacity to outsmart our adversary, the evil one, or Satan. But I do think we have the capacity to stand on God's word and find His tail, if that makes sense. So a lot of people try to find where the devil is, and I don't think you're actually able to do that, but I think you can find where his nature is, and you can draw like deductive logical reasoning from that. But like if you're always finding the devil in the room, I'm sorry, you're not smarter than Satan. You're just not. You just got to understand his schemes. And I'll always say this: the devil or sin or wickedness will always overplay his hand, and it will always expose his nature. And so I don't know. The problem with conspiracy theories is we're trying to absolutize a devil that we can't catch, and I just think it becomes useless and ignorant at that point.
Right.
But we can see the nature of evil, and we know what evil does. And so,
all right. Thanks for coming, man.
Somebody in the chat thinks that we found Noah's Ark. That's pretty embarrassing.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't make that argument. So what would you like to say?
Well, I was just thinking, why didn't Jesus ever take a lover?
I don't know. The Bible doesn't reveal that, so we can only know what God reveals about himself.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that the missing years of Jesus.
The missing years of Jesus, crazy. Yeah, dude, crazy.
Yeah, you would think that would be like that his disciples would have documented that.
I guess I don't. So
It's weird.
Yeah, weird.
Have you ever listened to The Missing Years by John Prine?
No.
Oh, excellent song. He starts the song like this: Jesus, the missing years.
It sounds. I'm gonna have to listen to that. It sounds from what you're describing, like it piqued my curiosity.
It's good. He goes through the missing years.
So, do you think atheism is rational?
I think it's I mean, I think it's fine.
What's the rationale for atheism?
Well, what do you mean? Like, there's no evidence of any god. So
Okay, so that's restating the claim. So, atheism isn't rational.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So you just believe things willy nilly. See, I think we should have evidence for our positions that we hold, and I have evidence for Christianity and the transcendental argument for God.
Yeah.
So,
So wait. So you think being an atheist, you're just willing to believe anything?
yeah.
That's like, I could say the same thing about religious follower, like people that follow any religion.
Yeah, but when you say that, like, what would be your ultimate foundation to like base that truth claim upon?
Well, there's literally zero evidence for any religion in this world.
Okay, I understand that's your position, but the point is like
Atheism is not a religion, Daniel. That's not what like you're dim, King.
Unfortunately for you, there's no evidence for your position, and I think we should believe things based
There's
on.
no evidence. What are you talking about? We're not making a claim that the person that is making the claim that there is a higher power needs to provide the evidence. We're saying that there is no evidence, and we deny the claim. We don't need evidence.
When you say there's no evidence for God, there's a hidden assumption within that statement that evidence is possible without God. So how would you defend that?
Say it again.
When you say there's no evidence for God, there's a hidden assumption within that sentence where you're saying that evidence is possible without God. So I'm saying you can't. There's no rationale for that, right?
That's nonsense. That's completely nonsensical. Okay.
It is.
Also, wait. Someone in the comments said, "Lies are from Satan, your father." Oh, that's the same guy that said that we found Noah's Ark. So he's a dim. He's a dim man. That's a dim. Shies is a dim guy. Shies is a dim guy. But yeah. So I'm not making the claim that there isn't a God. There's just no evidence for a God.
When you say there's no evidence for God, there's a hidden assumption within that claim that evidence is possible without God. How did you determine that evidence is possible without God?
Evidence is possible without God. What do you mean by that?
You said there's no evidence for God, and there's a hidden assumption within that evidence you could have evidence that doesn't reference the
Yeah. I'm asking you to explain that. You're just repeating the same thing.
You're saying that evidence is possible that doesn't reference the necessity of referencing the necessity of God.
Okay.
Yeah, how did you determine that you can have evidence that doesn't reference the necessity of referencing the necessity of God?
Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah. Isn't this tough titties for atheism? Because you're up poop creek without a poop paddle. So you have to stick your hands in poop to make atheism work. But you're willing to put your hands in poop for atheism? Is that worth it?
Sorry, I had a phone call.
Right on. Yeah, so you're kind of up Poop's Creek without a poop paddle. So you're going to put your hands in poop to paddle towards the atheism? Yeah, stinky poop hands?
Definitely.
Okay. Well, I would say, you should just accept the Bible.
Yeah, just accept it. The slavery and all that stuff, too. The incest and...
Well, you don't think you have a problem with inbreeding? Because did you know that Einstein married his first cousin? And he also he abused her.
He abused her?
Yeah, Einstein married his first cousin and he abused her.
I don't worship Einstein. You
I
worship
know.
God.
Well,
And
yeah, but
he was all right with all that stuff.
Okay,
You actually worship a
but
slave loving incest god. So
sure, I'm no Einstein, right? I'm a below 100 IQ person, but even I know it's wrong to put your hands on a woman. And it's also wrong to marry your first cousin. How come Einstein couldn't figure out with a scientific experiment that those things are wrong?
yeah, I don't worship Einstein.
This is
He was
why
a
he's
smart
a
guy.
god.
He was smart in science stuff, but I don't care about anything else.
Okay, how about Charles Darwin? Another cousin marrier.
Where's Peachy?
Married.
Again.
Why are all these scientists marrying their first cousin?
Again, you worship a god that's all right.
Why
with
are
all
your
that, so it
science
doesn't-
heroes, dude? Why are your science heroes? These are legends in science, and they're all marrying their first cousins.
Again,
What's going on?
you worship the god.
Why are
You worship-
scientists so weird?
You worship the
That's
god
weird.
You worship the God that says it's
Okay,
okay to do that.
but you're worshiping people that marry their first cousin, dude.
I don't worship them, King.
Dude.
You literally worship the God that says that's okay. So I don't get your point because
Explain this scientific fact
well
that
you
all these scientists are marrying their
yeah
first cousins. What's going on?
again
Is there a scientific evidence that marrying your first cousin is cool?
I mean I maybe but
Okay.
here's the thing, you worship the God that says that's okay. Don't
Okay,
you?
well, good luck.
So you,
I don't know. I guess he wants to marry his first cousin. Welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak on the Einstein thing real quick, which is kind of off topic. But Einstein married his cousin. Okay, you want to talk about people marrying their cousins? I'm a genealogist, and
I didn't bring it up. He brought it up. He said in the Bible, people marry. You know, there's the inbreeding. He said.
yeah, there's inbreeding, and I just wanted to point out that just a few decades back, maybe we go to 5 decades ago in a family tree, I guarantee you that that guy has people who have married their cousins, because that was very common at the time. So focusing on, oh, these guys that like science love their cousins is very weird, and it's a very strange straw man argument to make.
That's just like your opinion.
Right, it's not my opinion though. It was actually factually and statistically very common back in the day for people to marry their cousins. It's documented on marriage certificates and church books and everything. So I'm sorry, that's just how it is. Those are facts. I don't speak like on my opinion and call it a fact.
All right.
That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for educating us. I appreciate that, because I'm below 100 IQ. But even I know I didn't need no science book to tell me not to marry my first cousin. I have to go.
Hey, P. Mars.
Hello, how are you?
Doing well, thanks. So I've got a kind of a question for you. So understanding the transcendental argument, so you're basically using the transcendental argument, reductio ad absurdum, and the kind of a performative contradiction as kind of your overarching argument for objectively proving God, right?
Yes. If you reject God's revelation, you'll be reduced to absurdity, because you will have no ultimate context for science or logic.
Sure, right. And if your worldview is true, and then basically if I reject your worldview, then I have to provide an explanation for an alternative explanation, right?
Well, you would need what other ultimate? You need an ultimate to cancel my ultimate.
Correct. And so when it comes to that ultimate, this is my question. So whatever whether you call it ultimate or the concrete unifying principle, etc. I've had listened to you, I've listened to Darth, and basically there's a rejection when so people come up and they'll say things like existence itself or reality or nature or quantum fluctuations, etc. And all that gets rejected, which means that you have a specific requirement for what can be be ultimate for all of existence, or what can be a concrete unifying principle, correct?
It's not that I have a specific requirement. It's that there's a problem. So do you understand that your culture creates a filter or bias for you to interpret reality? That depending on the culture you were raised in, you interpret the world differently. You understand that?
No, I agree with that.
That's proven in sociology. Okay, so
sure.
We're asking, like, how do we know what reality is apart from that bias? Because that bias shapes your reality. And that's what we're saying, that we need an unfiltered source, or else all knowledge will be arbitrary, because it'll be tainted by human bias. And God doesn't have a human bias, and he has direct access to all knowledge. And so since God can give us that knowledge, we can have knowledge untainted by the filter or bias, because it comes directly from God. And without that, we'd be in a world of like the filter, the bias. And that's an unintelligible world, because everything is arbitrary, since ultimately truth is just whatever like a human mind decides truth is. You can't
So
have
you don't. So you don't have So you reject those other explanations.
There aren't any other explanations. Humans cannot know ultimate reality. The only way we can know ultimate reality is if ultimate reality reveals itself. So you're in a state of ultimate mystery, which means like every truth is basically just made up by humans. Everything is arbitrary. It's prejudicial conjecture. You couldn't make any valid claim about anything. You can't. Whenever you speak, it's like your whole life is a fantasy, and you're a Harry Potter fiction character.
So to be clear, you're claiming that there isn't a requirement for something that can. There
It's a
isn't a
problem.
requirement for what that can be ultimate. You don't
Ultimate
have a requirement for that.
The ultimate is that which explains everything in the system. So if I ask you what explains everything in the system, you're going to say I don't know because science doesn't tell us that, and philosophers can't tell us that. The only thing that can tell us is the very thing itself, revealing itself to us. That's the only way to have knowledge of that which explains everything.
But you're claiming that your worldview with God provides that explanatory power and nothing else can, which means you have a requirement for something that can, provide
Because
provide that.
if there can only be like one highest peak on a mountain, right? So if my argument demonstrates peak A is the highest peak on the mountain, then that would falsify that like peak B is the highest peak on the mountain. So
Yeah,
because there can
but
only be
you're
one
saying
ultimate.
you have a knowledge of that. You basically
Yes.
saying you have a requirement for that which can be ultimate.
What are you
Correct?
talking about requirements?
You have a state of state. If somebody says existence itself, or reality, or fluctuations, or the natural world, you reject that. How can you
No,
reject that
dude,
if you don't have a
dude.
requirement to kind of
I'm
to
breaking
compare it
this
to?
down. I'm making this simple. It's you either know the ultimate that was revealed to you, or you're in a state where you have an unknown ultimate. And in the place where you have an unknown ultimate, it's called ultimate mystery. That's just going to entail knowledge is arbitrary, prejudicial conjecture. We can only have objective truth if that which is ultimate reveals itself to us. That's your two options. That's it. It's real simple.
Well, look, you got, it seems like you're kind of dodging that specific question.
You're just not even understanding because your question's ignorant. Like
It's
you're
a
not.
yes or no question. Do you have a requirement for that which can be ultimate? Yes
I
or
don't
no?
know what you mean by do I? I don't have a requirement. Like that doesn't make sense.
So
What's
there isn't, are there necessary attributes for your God? Explain all of existence. So the world that we have in all of existence, are there necessary attributes of this God?
you're getting lost in the weeds. It has to do with what explains everything. Either the mind of
Correct.
God explains everything, or the mind of man explains everything. If the mind of man explains everything, everything reduces to an arbitrary opinion, which reduces to global skepticism. The only way we can avoid global skepticism is if the mind of God is ultimate and reveals itself to us. So we have knowledge that doesn't come from a human mind, or else all knowledge comes from a human mind. If all knowledge comes from a human mind, we don't know anything. We're just making things up. Everything is fantasy. It's really simple. That's it. I gotta go. And you're on your way to hell.